Oh my goodness. A sad day. Sad night, everyone. Welcome to Clobberin Times, issue number 170, 870 overall. We just, one of the biggest losses there will ever be to anyone who loves film and who loves superhero film. That's for sure. I see some wonderful people already in the chat. By the way, the great retro blasting is here. Michael, no, you're a busy man, and I'm about to talk to Con a little bit as well. But dude, if you have anything, if you feel like coming on to say anything about Richard Donner, dude, you know you're always welcome. I'd love to have you on. If you're busy, no biggie, buddy, but just let me know. I'll say some hellos here. I haven't even looked at the chat other than that. I saw you there. So let me look backtrack my chat, see who's here so I can say hello to everyone. Fight Outsider is here. Yay. J-Man, bro. Always appreciate you. Janet from Another Planet. It's always lovely to see you, my dear. Thank you for being here. Snortapoopas, Cubers here. I had to backtrack a little bit. Dadman's Walking Brother. Always good to see you. Hope you guys are hanging on out there. I'm moving the chats fast. I can't really see it that well. I want to make sure I get everyone. D-Bud Brother, what's up, man? Good to see you. Critzable. Oh, always a pleasure. Golgo 13. Hey. Steve Mitchum, yo, brother. Good to see you, buddy. The great Chris Persia's here. Hey, man. Always good to see you, man. Always good to see you, buddy. Oh, dude, I would love to have you join me, Michael, man. I need you for this one, brother. I'm going to shoot you over a link right now, man. Dude, because I know you're busy, man. I always hate to bug you to just jump on there and stuff like that, but you're such a good pal to do it at short notice, man, like that, and I appreciate you, bro. So let me shoot that to you so I can get to it. I'm going to shoot that to you over on the FB there. Where you at? Oh, what's wrong with this thing? Bop. There you go. I am, because I would love to talk a little Richard Donner with you, bro. And there it is. Appreciate you. Let's see who else popped in. Dude, that'd be great because it's a tough one. This is, of course, welcome everyone to Monday Night Mark C. Comics Talk. And I guess, since it's always about comics, I had planned to talk about patriotic superheroes tonight and do a little history of the patriotic superhero. But, this happened today. We lost the gentleman who gave me, in my opinion, the greatest superhero movie of them all. Hey, buddy.
How are you?
Oh, good to see you, man. How you doing?
Good. And just making sure that my cam and microphone are set up properly. Yep.
Oh, cool, man.
I'm good.
You hear me all right, man?
Oh, no, it was me I was making sure of. I didn't want you to
have
to be suffering my monitor mic or anything like that.
Oh, no, you're good, man. So I so appreciate having you here. Before we get going, I'll do a little quick show note for us because we have something special coming up, everyone. So a few show notes, of course. Tomorrow night, everyone, as always, will be on the Comic Book Roundtable. It will be on Eris's channel. It's Loki, by the way, always thanks to Loki for that great opening that he made for me. My great buddy Loki is, he doesn't like it when I call it Loki's Comic Book Roundtable because he likes to say it's all of ours. But, hey, without Loki, it wouldn't exist. So I like giving credit where credit's due. Who am I, Stanley? So, the Comic Book Roundtable will be tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. It'll be on Eris's channel. We're going to have, my goodness, guys, hey, you're going to suck in the guts, guys, with the Ghostbusters, because we're going to have two beautiful ladies on. On Eris's channel, and we're going to have the beautiful Mandy Summers on there. So, wow, man. Got to behave ourselves. Well, I doubt we will. But that will be fun. But Wednesday night, friends, I I cannot even express, as I've said many times here, how honored I am to be a part of this. Thanks to my wonderful guests who's here with me tonight. The Great Retro Blasting Gang are putting on a virtual con called Iconicon. And let's see, let me put this. It is starting. Now, what time exactly is it starting on Wednesday?
Let me see if I can pull that up for you.
That's okay. I'm putting up the list. I put a link in the chat to the playlist.
Sure. It's it starts at 8 a.m. on July 7th with an opening video, and then it goes all the way through July 11th. There's a whole schedule on iconicononline.com. And for anybody who's wondering, this is not a pay-for-play or paywall thing. This is a 20-channel free online convention for science fiction and pop culture. We have celebrity guests. We have great panels, including our friend Mike Alonso here at Clobberin Times doing a number of things. I think you're doing the panel on comic shops of the 80s, and
yes.
There's another one that you're doing, isn't there? Or maybe there's not. I can't remember.
This is the one I'm doing on my channel, which is at 5 p.m. Central, 6 Eastern on Wednesday, the 7th.
Yep.
But I'm going to be sitting on 3 others.
I'll post the link here in the chat right now for everybody to see the schedule. So there's the schedule link I just posted. But just full disclosure, I was not supposed to be on this show tonight. No, I'm not pulling a Zack Snyder, by the way, Mike. I was not supposed. I was. What I was trying to get at is I didn't want them to think that I was here to talk about Iconicon because 1, it's free. There's no profit motive here. 2, I'm here because Mike and I have spent years loving the work of Richard Donner, and so I wanted to be here to listen. But then when Mike said come on the show and talk, I was like, I'm just going to do this. So yeah, this was not a pre-planned Iconicon plug or anything like that. So
let's see here. I have just made you a mod. That way you can put that link anytime you want.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'll pin it. And of course, I also put a link in there for the playlist of all the videos that I think that Melinda put out there.
Yep. Yeah, we have a full playlist on the Retro Blasting channel, so people can click. But we also have other events on other platforms. Like we have podcasters that are doing some shows, and all of that is visible on the Iconicon online schedule link that I just posted in the chat. So and it's all in order per day, per hour, and that the website. The only disadvantage of the website is that the website doesn't autocorrect for your time zone, whereas the YouTube playlist, if you go to that playlist, it will autocorrect everything to your time zone wherever you are. So you'll know exactly what time it is local to you when those events start. So.
Oh, okay. Well, that case, what I will do is I'll put it in there, and then I will go and pin the playlist at the top there.
Yep.
And that will be at the top there. Oh, there it is, right there. Playlist. There we go. That will be at the top, everyone.
And now, while you're doing that, I'm going to go into all the different Retro Blasting portals and make sure that everybody knows that I am on Clobberin Times right now, talking with you.
That's fantastic. I was going to bug you to come on at least, hopefully at one point before Comic-Con so we could talk about it. But I knew you've been so busy, and just been in perfect night here tonight, even though it's for a sad occasion.
Yeah. So how are you feeling?
I tell you what, I just pretty good, of course. But I was tonight. I was going to be talking, since it was a patriotic holiday. I was going to be talking about patriotic superheroes and doing a little history on that. But when this happened, I mean, this is the man that gave us the greatest superhero movie of all time that will never be surpassed, and of course, one of the patriotic superheroes I was going to be talking about anyway.
Yeah.
So I just thought, we lost so many people from this film. And I've always known of your love for not only the film, but his work. So I'm glad it worked. I was going to bug you to come on. So no, he's busy. So when you popped up in the chat, I was just going to do that's it. I had to prevail.
Oh, I keep up with your channel as well. And so when I saw that, and both through Facebook and through YouTube, and also on Twitter, and to anyone out there, you should really follow Mike on all the social media portals because it really helps. Because no matter where you are, you're getting the update to know about things like this. But I saw that you were changing your subject tonight to talk about Richard Donner, and I was like, I'm going to be there in the chat to listen. And then you said, come on in. I was like, I'm coming on in.
I'm glad you're here, bro. Absolutely. So I miss talking to you anyway, man. And it is always a shame if it's a bad circumstance like this, but man led a nice long life and left so much wonder behind.
Oh, that's what a lot of people have been saying, is that, we shouldn't be sad. He led a long life and all this kind of stuff, and he did all these great things, and that's all true. But I'm just gonna throw this out there because there's a reason to be sad, and and the reason to be sad from my perspective is that Richard Donner was the one guy that really got it right, and notice how the Hollywood system very quickly didn't care that he got it right. They cast him aside in the comic book world very fast. They didn't let him finish Superman 2. We all know about all that stuff. And then from there on out, nobody seemed to really learn the lessons that Donner was trying to teach filmmakers about superheroes. And
absolutely,
I know that some movies haven't been total disasters as far as being entertainments. And I know that some actors and some writers have gotten it pretty close. Like, I think we can all agree that, the way they did Captain America for the most part was as close as you can get to a Christopher Reeve pure superhero as we've had in 40 years. But that being said, those movies were still caught up in an entertainment agenda, which was, hey, we're here to do this multi-pronged thing. In other words, not that it was insidious. It's just there was a lot more going on there than just trying to get the tone and everything of Captain America right. Whereas Superman the movie, there was no cinematic universe back then. There weren't even crossovers. There weren't even other superheroes. Like, Batman had been on TV, and Wonder Woman was about to be on TV or had just been on TV. Yeah, she was in the mid-'70s, but they didn't have any intention of bringing them into a movie. Like, they weren't going to get Adam West and Linda Carter to come into a movie with Christopher Reeve. Like, that wasn't even a thing. No. So this movie was Superman as the only super being in his world up until, of course, the second film. But you know what I'm saying? Like, sure. It wasn't this thing where it was like, there's super villains and Iron Man and all this kind of stuff. And I'm not trying to belittle it. What I'm simply saying is it was a far more focused, risky thing. And Donner did it right because Donner truly believed in the character. And he believed in him in the way that he was presented, not with caveats. Like, Donner didn't come in saying, I think this is only going to work if Superman is altered in this, and this way. Like, he literally came in and said, this is only going to work if we do not mess with this character.
And he rescued him.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. From a horrible script by Mario Puzo.
Yeah. Yeah.
This could have easily been. Now, Superman is a bigger character than Doc Savage. However, I love it as much as I like George Powell and I love Ron Ely. That Doc Savage film of the 70s tried to cash in on the Batman craze 10 years late, and the movie vanished into obscurity. Not that he was ever going to be as big as Superman, but it did hurt it. That is exactly what they were trying to do to Superman with the Puzo script, which was atrocious.
Yeah.
300 pages long.
It had like Kojak in it and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yes. It's really bad. I mean, obviously they still put his name on there because, that's how Hollywood works, but he had almost pretty much none of his, or very little of his story survived what Donner did, because as you said, Donner has said many times, he said, this is a character that should be treated like with respect and like a legend.
Yeah.
There's humor. Sure. Yeah. And I was just watching it right now again. In fact, I was just watching the extended cut.
Uh-huh.
By the way, this is an extended cut. There's a special edition. I think the extended cut is newer. The special edition is the broadcast television edition. The theatrical edition.
The extended Blu-ray is the broadcast one, and the special edition is the one where Donner went back and got to kind of finish it and finesse it in 2001 or 2, I believe, for DVD, which then got updated to Blu-ray.
Okay, I thought it was the other way around because I was watching. They have the one that calls itself is a two disc cut.
Mm-hmm.
The one that calls itself the extended cut that I was just watching is a lot longer, and it has a scene that Donner added. So, but even though it says Donner didn't.
Donner's special edition cut in 2001 or 2, which is also in that two disc set. It is him going back and grabbing a few things that he always wanted in the theatrical, but didn't have time to fix. He wasn't pulling a Lucas. He literally didn't have time to put that stuff in there because Warner Brothers, remember, was pressuring them to get it out by Christmas. And so he went back and grabbed those things. But that extended 3-hour cut was it's great that it exists retroactively. But at the time, it was a very mercenary move by the Salkinds to try and get as many commercial breaks as they could for the broadcast version.
Oh yeah.
Right. So, I mean, if we knew that at the time, it would have left a bad taste in our mouths. However, it made sure that all this footage actually survived of all these other lines and, little scenes and bits from this wonderful film. So yeah. And from what I understand, because that extended cut floated around for decades on bootleg VHS tapes from people who'd recorded it at the time that it had been on TV. And then somehow Warner Brothers, just a few years ago, they thought they had found all the Superman stuff, and they found this, I guess it was an interpositive or an answer print that they had conformed to make the telescene copies for broadcast. And they were like, oh, wow, we've actually got the TV cut here, like in a really nice format where we can actually put it on high def, like, because it's on film. And so they ran it off, and there's some like expert, Superman the movie hyper fans who are like, well, it's actually missing like one or two shots here and there, but it's 99% the broadcast edition. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, I'll live with that. So,
well, I think I could be wrong. I'm going to find out because I've only watched half of it so far. It's been a while since I've watched it. I've watched the extended cuts, and of course, I was one of those that couldn't wait to videotape it when it first the long ABC 2-night event version aired way back when in the early 80s, 81-ish or 2, whenever it did. I forget the exact year. But I recorded it and watched it a zillion times with all that added stuff, of course. But I think this Blu-ray that I have that has the double disc thingy that is relatively cheap.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting to think from what I'm watching is they got the names backwards. In other words, what I'm watching now in the extended cut is not the ABC version.
Right.
And it seems like the one that says special edition might be, and it's short. It's shorter though. I'm not sure, I don't know what happened because the scene with Jor-El, him talking to Jor-El after he first appears.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in the ABC version.
Right.
That was Donner putting it back in, apparently,
that
you were talking about.
Yeah.
But it's on the extended cut.
Oh, that's interesting. Because there was an even longer cut on Canadian television in like 1992 or 93.
Mm-hmm.
So there are multiple versions of the broadcast version. It's crazy. So I don't know if that scene was in the Canadian version or not, but I know the Canadian version is slightly longer and different from the American broadcast extended cut. So it's this whole thing. It's a whole thing. Yeah.
I can tell you it wasn't on the ABC version though.
Yeah. Somebody's saying, how is Donner any different than any other brilliant director visionary? I would just say that there aren't really that many brilliant directors or visionaries, especially today. So if you actually can count on one hand the number of contemporary filmmakers that you believe are visionary directors, I'm going to laugh at you. Like so.
Yeah, not today anyway.
Not today. No, not that. The implication is that he's referring to people today. But I mean, he would. The big loss here for me is not, his life was tragically cut short. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that this man understood how to translate comic book superheroes to the screen because he respected them. And frankly, I don't think anybody has come close to that level of respect, even with the movies that even with the comic book movies you walk away from unirritated. I think they lack the substance that this movie had, by and large. Not always to like a detrimental degree. I mean, obviously there are some really great superhero movies like Winter Soldier and things like that. But as far as one just massive, perfect experience, only the 1978 Superman movie has nailed it so far. That's where I'm coming from. And I know there's people out there who are like, no, I really like, I don't know, pick a movie. I really like, Blank Man or something like that. It's like, okay, fine.
Well, sure, people can like whatever they like to like. I mean, this thing is with all right, any superhero film that you do love after 1978, and that if he really owes it all to this one, because this is the one that I don't know. Do I want to use the word legitimized superhero films, or it certainly set them in motion? Now let's be honest. After that, its sequels were not very good, and there weren't very many good superheroes. I would argue until 1989, there was not another superhero film really taken seriously, and we all know which one that was. And then after that, it was fairly barren. I mean, I love The Rocketeer. It just wasn't. In fact, just did a show about it the other night with my good friend Fat Steven on this channel, and we talked extensively about that. And I loved that film, but it was not the success that those other two were, obviously, because he was a character that was very, not very well known. He came out 2 weeks before Terminator 2 and all kinds of other reasons. But still, we weren't in an age where there were like every week there was a great superhero film coming out that was very popular. It was still rare for one to be super successful.
Right.
In between 78 and 89, you had one, then you didn't have a whole lot of success, then you had 89, then you didn't have really that much success with superhero films. There were a lot of hit or miss.
Yep, they really were. I'm trying to think of the next big one after Batman 89 that was a true hit.
Maybe Batman Returns, but...
Yeah, Batman Returns, because it had, and I know that financially speaking, Batman Forever did really well, but I hate that movie, so...
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, it's terrible.
As far as successful, I'd say after Batman Returns, I would probably say, and of course I love The Rocketeer, as we mentioned. I love The Phantom, actually. I would be saying, but as far as was a big success, I'll give you one. Go ahead.
That's a great point that you were just making. Is that Phantom was pretty true to its source material, but it didn't do well. So it was the opposite of Batman Forever, where Batman Forever did really well, but it was a crap movie that just traded on hype and a song from Seal. Whereas Phantom really interpreted itself well, like The Rocketeer, and nobody went to see it. I saw it in the theater, but nobody else saw it. So huge,
successful superhero films were still they were making them, but they were fairly sparse. I think after the biggest one was probably of the 90s, after you got through with Batman Returns, might have been one of that surprise kind of a sleeper hit. Blade did very well, but no one knew who the character was. But really, remember, you don't really get like a monster hit again until you get the first Spider-Man film.
Right. Yeah.
Success, whether you like them or not, I'm saying it's successful. So,
yeah, I've been meaning, actually, and I don't know if it's wise. It's funny you bring that movie up. I never saw Spider-Man 3. And
lucky you.
Yeah, but I saw the first two, and part of me keeps going, well, it's been about 20 years. Should I go back and watch those again? Like maybe try, because I don't even own them. Like I
did it recently, by the way, because I got them cheap.
Oh, and how was the experience?
I like, there are things wrong with both of the first two, but I think at the time, remember, it kind of blew a lot of people away to see Spider-Man actually moving around like that. Because that's not, right. I was a little shocked that they were able to pull that off very well. Not a big Toby guy personally. But I'm not one who loves those films or hates them. I think, except for the third one. The third one's terrible. But I think because now that the MCU has passed and I've talked about it, it's not as good as it was. Watching them with a little hindsight, I find them to be fairly enjoyable. The first two, and the third one is still not only a mess; it's a terrible film, in my opinion.
Right? Yeah,
not in love with him. Don't hate him. I can't stand the Andrew Garfield one stuff.
Oh yeah. I only saw the first one. I was like, nope, not gonna watch the second one of these. So yeah.
Some people really do love those Toby ones, which again is perfectly fine. I mean, I don't hate them or anything. They're well liked by a lot of people, which is fine. I don't have anything really particularly. I don't hate it, but I know a lot of people that can't stand them. So it's kind of a strange thing. They're in the short span of 20 years, you have 3 different leads for the character, and it has 3 different, like, I don't know if say reboots or
right.
That's a lot, but
yeah. Well, yeah. The only thing that's been rebooted more than Spider-Man in recent memory is Terminator 3.
Yeah, well, oh yeah, that's true, isn't it? Well,
so, but anyway,
my God.
I think that maybe all of that is finally, to anybody listening out there, all these things that we've just rapid fire mentioned within the last 10 minutes maybe make you understand why, even though Richard Donner was up there in age, he will be missed because he made good movies. Timeline notwithstanding, he made really good movies.
It's funny because, as you know, the first thing I ever saw, as you can imagine, the first thing I ever saw of his that I loved, of course, was 1978 Superman 1. And then after becoming such a big fan of his, every time I would watch all these old, because I love old TV and I love old stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He worked on some of my favorite shows, and he worked on, dude. You mentioned Kojak. He actually worked on episodes of Kojak. He worked on Have Gun Will Travel, dude, the greatest Western TV show ever, in my opinion. And I think he worked on one of your all-time favorite shows. I think did he work on? I think he did. Did he do an episode of Combat or something?
Oh yeah,
he did an episode of Combat.
Yep, he did Combat, and he also did the Twilight Zone, didn't he?
Twilight Zone, many Twilight Zone episodes. The Lieutenant for Gene Roddenberry. Again, he directed a number of 5 episodes of Have Gun Will Travel, greatest Western ever. He did. I mean, Wagon Train, Wanted Dead or Alive, a show I loved. Let's see, what else? The Detectives. Remember that one with Adam West was on that show. He directed Rifleman. And I'm just trying to remember. He did some Man from Uncle episodes. I couldn't remember all of them, so I was looking. Anyone remember the Banana Splits, folks?
Yeah, Stephen Thompson says Donner did Danger Island for Banana Splits. Yep.
Oh, I'm not looking at the chat. Did he? Wow, you knew that, dude. That's good. You're good, man. Because I can't remember one time when I was watching a Banana Splits and I saw his name on there. And I'm like, that Richard Donner? This ridiculous. It's pretty ridiculous.
And Pat S is reminding us he did Cyndi Lauper videos as well.
Did he really?
Oh, apparently he directed some Cyndi Lauper videos back in the day. I mean, he was very, I can see him doing that. Like I don't think he was snotty about the medium. I think he was, he was like, I just love creating things. That's how he seemed to be. He'd get excited about something and then go do it.
Well, this is the guy that paid his dues on all those TV shows. Again, some really good ones. I mean, yes, and by the way, we mentioned he was on Kojak. He's done Petrocelli. He's done a lot of shows, and I've seen his name just pop up if I'm watching, because I love to watch a lot of old shows. And now when I go over here, and then, boom, The Omen, which was what really probably launched him as a film director.
Yep.
Which was, and with which had, by the way, Patrick Troughton was in that. It's for Doctor Who fans, a little trivia for you there. But I'm going to go ahead and look at his list because I can't remember them all. I mean, obviously, I love the Lethal Weapon films.
Yeah, and of course he did Goonies and Lady Hawk.
Well, there's your. I just now that's true about Cyndi Lauper because she was connected to Goonies.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I wasn't a big Lady Hawk kind of a fan. I did see it in the theater. Did you like that one?
I think all of us would like Lady Hawk Fan a lot more if they had actually used a decent score instead of that synthoid Casio keyboard garbage that they decided to use, that Casio 80s rock synth stuff instead of like an actual orchestrated fantasy score.
It was weird, wasn't it?
It was bizarre. And I mean, I don't hate Lady Hawk, but how often do I watch it every decade? How often have I watched it in the last 10 years? I don't think I've watched it in the last 10 years. You know how often I've watched it? Since the time I saw it at the theater in 1985. I can see that there was a quality movie there. Well, there was a real fairy tale there, but there were some creative choices that were made to And I would love to get the info on that if Donner himself, because I can see him being exuberant enough to say, yeah, let's go with a contemporary 1983 score or whatever. But I can also see the studio stepping in and going, to make this more appealing to the mainstream audience, we should really think about contemporary music instead of, I don't know. I'd love to find out. I think if that movie had a more, traditional John Williams, Jerry Goldsmith type score, it would have been far better remembered than it is.
Yeah, that was not a very good decision, that soundtrack. I remember, and by the way, I've seen it only that one time in '85, and now that you bring that up, I'm going, yeah, I remember not really being down with that choice of a score, but I'll tell you, but any movie with the great Leo McKern cannot be all bad. So
that's true. No, that's absolutely true. There's a lot of good things in that film.
So. Oh yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I've known many ladies really like the film, because obviously, not saying it's a chick film. I'm just man, we'll get in trouble. But yes, The Goonies is also very popular. That's another one I saw at the theater on a date or something and never watched again. And then I found out many years later, many of my dear friends who are much younger really, really love it, which is good. I have nothing against it. It was fine, but it's truly a beloved film.
Yeah, it really is.
A lot of people.
I didn't grow up. I saw it as a kid, not in the theater. I saw it on a video rental. I didn't hate it or anything, but as we've talked about many times, I tended to gravitate away from films and stories that were about children that weren't old enough to have driver's licenses. I don't know what it was, and it wasn't. Like Goonies is one of the ones that I look back on and go, that one didn't irritate me, but I just didn't watch movies like that. It is, if the kid was in a contemporary time, like he was living in my time on Earth, and he couldn't drive a car, my interest fell by 70%. Like, you'd really have to try and win me over with a film like that. But if the kid was like in a fantasy world, then it didn't matter as much. So like I could watch Atreyu in The Neverending Story, and I could watch, Mio in The Land of Far Away or something like that. Like I could watch that no problem. But even though that beginning part, bringing it back to the Superman thing, I think the only reason that Mio got away with it was because even though he was a kid on Earth, it was Susanna York as a shopkeeper that sent him to a magical world. Therefore, there's your Superman connection to that story.
Well, I blame my seeing Goonies on my date. There you go. It was a date. I had to. I had no choice, everyone. Just kidding. I mean, a lot of people really love that movie. And again, I was a little shocked many, many years later. You know how it goes. It'll be something for the kids, their childhood, which I have totally respect. And I'm zero against it. Just saying, at the theater, when I walked out of it as a 21-year-old guy, I didn't really get a whole lot out of it. Let's put it like that.
Right.
What a great crowd we got here tonight, man. Look, 32 Flavors of Nick Wise. What's up, buddy? Monkey Jeebus, Stephen Thompson, the great Eric K, the beautiful Rennie A. It's so wonderful to see you there, Rennie. R.I.P Biker Scout, Janet from Another Planet. It's lovely to see you, my dear. My buddy Pat S, D Bud Martin, Monkey Jeebus. Already said that tonight. Cal L 48. It's a sad day, Cal L, for that name, isn't it? Captain 300 sub spot. Good to see you again, bro. J Man. I can't see the whole thing, but I hope I got it. Tim Hayes is here as well. Hey, buddy. And anyone else I missed, thank you all for being here tonight. I appreciate it. We were talking, of course, with my great friend Michael of Retro Blasting and Alconicon coming up soon, and we are talking about the passing of one of my all-time favorite film directors, and one of his as well, who gave us, if you like any superhero film, you don't have it without this one here. Even if you don't like it, which I can't conceive of. If you don't like it, I don't know what's wrong with you. But
if you don't like it, you ain't got no taste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hey, Wolfie, how's it going there? And Matt Ludy, hello there. Good to see you. And yes, I bumped into a person or two that doesn't. And the thing is, at least someone will admit that even if they don't, they do admit that it was it's what started it all. You will believe a man can fly. Mm-hmm. Dude, in 1978, I went 18 times to the theater to see this film.
Wow.
Script Doctor, always an honor and pleasure to see you here, sir. 18 times, dude. I lived in the movie theater. Every chance I got, I would go and watch it. Sometimes multiple times on a Saturday when I would be able to con my mom and dad or my grandmother or whatever to drop me off at the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Many times all alone, only one in the theater after a while. Because at least as you know, films back then ran for a long time in theaters.
Right. Yeah, they ran for a really long time. I remember you could rent Batman on VHS while it was still in some theaters in my area. Like true. It was crazy.
Yeah. Yep. And this was it. This was one. Rennie, I'm with you. To me, this will always be my favorite superhero film of all time. Hey, Dave, what's up, cuz? Good to see you, brother. It's I don't know. It's like a song that you can listen to over and over again for me. And of course, as you know, we've talked about it earlier, have all these different versions now. And it's kind of funny to me. I think it's weird because, I always talk about how I have a lousy memory, Michael. But when I watch these, like I was watching earlier, this extended edition, or when I watch the special editions or what have you,
mm-hmm.
This is because I think I saw the theatrical version so many times before I finally before the network television debut of the edition with the added scenes.
Yeah.
I probably had already seen it 30, 40 times or whatever. I don't know what it is. And so, but obviously because I love the film so much, I wanted to see all the added stuff.
Yeah. But
still to this day, when I watch one of the extended versions, I love it, but it doesn't feel precisely exactly right to the point where I know what's been added or altered. I mean in the opening credits. Yes, the extended version, they even had to screw around with the opening credits of that perfect musical opening with the credits. And I could even detect that. I was watching it now going, yep, they had to alter that to add this or that.
Right. And that's probably why it was a wise move on Warner Brothers' part when they put the movie on 4K, that they said, we're putting the theatrical cut on 4K. Like that's the one we're scanning into 4K. Probably because the negative was already conformed to that, because all these alternate cuts have all been, digital transfers of the negative and then recut and everything like that in a computer. It's the wisest policy. Will I always be glad that I have a Blu-ray copy where I can watch Superman walk through that tunnel with the machine guns and the fire and the ice coming at him? Absolutely. But did I run out and get the 4K just so that I have, like a reference grade copy of the original film? Yes. And, it's kind of like with with Star Trek, the motion picture, except in the case of Superman, at least the movie was finished when it came out, whereas with the motion picture, it was not. It's a lot simpler for these movie studios to scan the negative as it was theatrically conformed, because that's ready to go and ready to be scanned into 4K. In order to get these alternate cuts mounted, as they call it, it takes a lot more work and a lot more money to bring them up to the next home video format. And that's why, for example, Star Trek the Motion Picture, only the theatrical cut is available on Blu-ray. Blu-ray, no less, not even 4K, but Blu-ray, because all the alternate cuts were VHS versions and DVD versions, and they just weren't mastered in the right resolution because of expense. So
yeah, a couple of weeks ago when we reviewed Motion Picture, I had to watch my old DVD for to rewatch the director's cut.
Yep, and that's a shame, because that is Robert Wise saying this is how I intended it, and I never got to finish the thing. And that's talking about Richard Donner. That's the real shame for me of Superman 2, the Donner cut, is that everything in there that Donner shot is superior to everything Lester replaced it with. There's no doubt about it. But Donner had to give up the ending of that movie to make that ending the ending of part 1, because Warner Brothers wanted it out by Christmas. And then they were going to come back and figure out a new ending for part 2. Well, 30 years later, when you're just trying to do the Donner cut as an experiment, not only do you not have the scenes he never got to film, so you have to use screen tests and digital trickery and all kinds of other stuff, but you don't have an ending. So you got to put the Superman 1 ending back on there with different inserts and everything like that, which of course confuses people who don't know the behind the scenes story that you and I do. So they get it and they're like, oh, why is the ending the same? And it's like, all right, you Philistine, let me educate you. You know, like, and so, the Donner cut is a fun thing to view as a kind of what if.
Yes.
But it's not. I hate to break it to everybody. It's what Richard Donner would have wanted if Warner Brothers had given him the time to finish part 1 the way he wanted, but they didn't. So now, by default, Superman 2 isn't even what Richard Donner would have done after he was brought back from the release of part 1. So Superman 2 is like this weird kind of just. It's like the best guess. It's Spock's best guess in Star Trek 4. Like, it's like, we're just going to kind of put this together. And again, the Donner footage that's in there is awesome, but it's not a complete experience for me.
Well, I hear you, absolutely. But the thing is, it's at least a bit of a balm for me because Superman 2, probably in 1981, when I first saw it, represents one of the biggest disappointments of my movie-going life, my whole life. What the hell, my geek life. Because I walked out of that theater in denial, like there's no way I cannot like this film. I would not let myself believe it at first. So I went back the same. Actually, went to the night feature, so I went back twice the next day, I think, and couldn't believe how much I was starting to hate it, and when I started really. Richard Lester just again, I know he's acclaimed for his Beatles film or whatever, Hard Day's Night or whatever it is, and all that kind of stuff. It was a disgrace in so many ways to me, and it pissed me off so bad. There were so many things wrong with it, and I grew to really hate it. And then, the same thing happened to me with Return of the Jedi in a lot of ways as well. But eventually that was cured a little bit over that. I don't hate it as much. I have my problems with it. But this was the first time that's really happened to me. And I was very upset about it. And so the Donner cut at least made me feel a little bit better.
Oh, yeah. No, I was very, very happy that they took the time to actually put that together. I really was, because I was following that whole thing from the late 90s. I was on the websites and, looking at all the material on Superman homepage and all that stuff. And I was, but as much as seeing that footage is really, I have it on the best quality format possible, and seeing the street fight improved and all that kind of stuff. It's a cinematic, not regret. It's a cinematic travesty is really what it is. Not the cut itself, but why it all ended up that way. Like if you had just had some morals as the producers and just let him finish the movie, because he did deliver, one of the most successful films of 1978. Like, it was one of the most beloved films. It was an instant classic. You made more than all of your development money back. Like, the film wasn't a huge success. It was moronic to not bring him back, regardless of what he said about you in the trades. He had a legitimate reason to be angry with those guys. And look, they should have been professional about it, sucked it up, and said, you know what? Let's bring him back and have another hit at the wheel. Like, we want these films to be successful, don't we? I mean, Richard Lester was a big mishire for that project. I mean, I don't know. It would be like hiring Rian Johnson to do a Star Wars movie. Like, it's just, it's a bad idea. The cellophane S and the weird powers that come from nowhere and the really chintzy humor and all that kind of stuff. I mean, well, the Salkinds were jackasses. Let's face it. They they really screwed the pooch on the whole thing. It's almost a miracle that the first movie turned out the way it did, to be honest with you, but considering those jackasses. I think there's some people in the chat that are misreading what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I enjoy watching Superman 2, the theatrical cut. I'm not even saying it's better than the Donner cut. I'm simply saying that as that's what makes it doubly frustrating is the Donner cut stuff is superior, but it's a work print. It's not really ever possible to make it a finished movie. And then the Lester cut, which is quote unquote a finished movie, is a pratfall. So that's where the tragedy comes in.
Yep, absolutely. Script doctor, that's true. He thinks of himself as satirical, but often misses. I mean, again, he was known for I'm not sure the other films, but we all know Hard Day's Night.
Yeah.
But the Salkinds were just jackasses. They didn't know what they were doing. I mean, look, because of all of their crap, we didn't even get a novelization of the first two films because of things. That's what we got, like a making of book. And then we got those two Elliot Maggin books, Miracle Monday and Last Son of Krypton, which had the. You ever seen those books?
I've seen the covers. Yeah,
they have picture from the movie, but they're nothing to do with the movies.
Yep.
There was no comic. They couldn't even do a comic book adaptation of their own films. First two, they didn't do 1 till 3,
and they couldn't even. They couldn't really even do toys, which was really bizarre.
Yeah, there wasn't much in the way of toys. Was there?
No.
Or merchandising, much of anything. And of course, at the time, look, one of the things, calling back to Superman the movie in the. Actually, J-Man, that's a good point. Going back to the Salkinds for a second, that's part of the problem that happened with Superman is they did these. They're Musketeer films, 3 Musketeers and 4 Musketeers. They filmed them at the same time and then broke them into 2 movies. I saw them at the theater. I mean, I like those movies, but wasn't that Lester? I think Lester did those. If I'm not mistaken.
The Musketeer films?
Yes, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Okay,
and that was the whole thing is that the 4 Musketeers was apparently a sleight of hand move where they just kind of cobbled it together from footage left over from 3 or something along those lines, and so a lot of the actors got pissed because they were like, "Hey, you paid us for 1 movie, not 2." And so there was, and then Richard Lester got upset. I don't remember why. It was something about a pay dispute or something. They owed him money for. I think that was the other thing. They owed him money for the 4 Musketeers because he had basically directed that footage from 3 Musketeers, and so that's where all that shell game comes in, where they're basically just giving him Superman 3 and letting him finish Superman 2 to make everything okay from the Musketeers situation. I mean, those guys were real slimy. I mean, they were real slimy.
Oh God, yeah, they were. Yeah. Stephen Thompson, if it is a guilty pleasure, I have it too. The 3rd and 4th season of the Superboy show had a lot of great episodes, and the first 2 seasons were kind of but I really enjoyed that show. There was no budget, of course. But I really like a lot of it. There were some really great stories, including one with Ron Ely actually does play an older Superman. So Ron Ely has played Tarzan, Doc Savage, and Superman. Just saying. Wow, who could say that? Who could make that? Put that on the resume, right?
I know, right?
But going back to, the lead up to this film, to Superman 1, all through the 70s as a kid, I can't tell you exactly how many years. It probably seems like more than it was, but for years there was a Superman movie. They kept announcing it in the back of DC Comics, and eventually there was like the Superman movie. You can be in the Superman movie. The contest for that someone can win to be in the Superman movie, and this is when you kept hearing all that scuttle about who might play the Superman that was going around. Obviously there was no internet or anything like that, but you would still read it in places like in magazines and newspapers and hear it on, just hear about it. People speculating on who was going to play Superman. And as you know, there were a lot of crazy ideas about who might play him. I don't know if it was, and you probably do know. Was it Donner that ultimately gave us Christopher Reeve? I mean, was it his decision, or was he brought in after that?
No, he was the one that did it. He did the screen test.
He did. So.
Yeah, because remember before that they had Guy Hamilton trying to do the movie, and he was right. He was a tax exile in Italy. So they were trying to do all the test footage and everything in Italy while God knows who was doing a draft of the script at that point. Was it David Lester or was it? David Newman, or was it Mario?
David and Leslie Newman.
David and Leslie Newman. Yeah, there was all these different people that were working on different drafts of the script, and
Tom Mankiewicz.
Who got consultant credit or whatever, even though he basically wrote the final version. But yeah, they were doing all that test footage for the flying effects in Italy, with just trying to figure out how they were going to make this look okay, and in the background, they finally figured out that something, I don't remember exactly what happened, but they realized that it was going to be a lot cheaper to shoot the movie in England. And Guy Hamilton's like, well, I'm literally not allowed to go there because I'm a tax evader. And so they were like, oh. And so they ran off, and that was when they hired Donner, who said that he got the phone call while sitting on the can or something like that. And he was like, wrote it down on a piece of paper or something. And we're going to give you $1 million to shoot Superman. So then he goes off and does this casting, does this casting call. And remember, they were having the hardest time trying to find Superman because they even tested one of the producer's wives' dentists. Like, she was in the dentist chair and she was like, my God, this guy looks like Superman. They even brought him in to test for it. They were so desperate to find a guy. And of course, Chris Reeve came in, and of course, all the people around Richard Donner were like, this kid's skinny as can be. Like, he's, 160 and 6'4" or 5", or whatever he was, soaking wet. And Donner is basically, I've got the word from Chris that he was an athlete in high school and college, and he can beef up, and he's promised me that that's going to be the case. And so then he went off to hang out with David Prowse, who played Darth Vader in the suit in the Star Wars films, and Dave Prowse trained him up, got him all beefed out or whatever.
Yep.
And then he came back. So like, if you watch the different screen tests and the special features as the screen tests go on after Chris Reeve was cast, you can slowly see him getting bigger. Like the first screen test, he's really small,
yes.
And he keeps getting bigger and bigger. So yeah.
You just got to hand it to Richard Donner. I mean, considering the idiots in charge of this thing, for that movie to turn out the way it did, I'm not giving it all the credit to Donner, but I'm giving a lot of it to Donner and Christopher Reeve and the casting. There was so much going against it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
with those morons with the Salkinds, because they were jackasses that knew nothing. They were probably pretty much like Dino De Laurentiis. They didn't know anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Donner was so pure about this movie that there are even moments where, and I'm not about to criticize the film, I'm about to criticize myself. So everybody just, you can untighten your rear ends. You of all people know how much I love Superman as a character, and the real Superman, not the BS that we've been getting the last 20 years, but the real Superman. And there are even things in the Donner film where I have to reset my brain, not involving Superman himself necessarily, but some of Donner's just purity of heart and sentimentality in that movie even challenges and specifically I'm referring to Margot Kidder's Poem in the Sky. Like, I'm like, and again, it's my failing, not the movie. It's my failing. But sometimes I go, God, man, I catch myself going, this is freaking cheesy. And then I'm like, Michael, this came from the soul of the same man that gave you all the other stuff in this movie you love. So, and I'm like, right, you're right. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, smart Michael. Stupid Michael shouldn't have said that. Sorry, smart Michael.
I gotta be honest. I'm outing myself on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't. I'm one of the few that does not mind that thing. I don't mind a little bit of silly romance in there because it is coming from a lady falling in love with this godlike being and stuff like that. It's a bit of sentimentality, but it's sold by the scene itself and by the brilliant soundtrack by John Williams.
Yeah, and again, I don't mind her flying with him. I don't mind them going around the Statue of Liberty. I don't mind them holding each other in the clouds.
Right.
It's just the voiceover in that one part where I'm constantly, and again,
you're not alone.
I am not criticizing the film. Look, everybody, the film is better than me. Okay, I am not better than the film. The film is 1,000% better than me. It's my failing. I don't know what it is, but I don't skip by it or anything. And I always tell myself, I'm like, Michael, your brain is making you a jackass again. Settle in and just do this. I'm like, all right, yeah.
Dude, a lot of people knock that scene and make fun of it.
But that's the thing. I don't feel like it should be made fun of because I feel like this movie is a real achievement. I'm literally, you know what it is? That scene is a nice constant reminder to me that we as human beings are not perfect and we all need something that checks ourselves, like that's the scene that allows me to check myself before I wreck myself. That's the one right there. So.
Oh no, dude, nothing wrong. Look, no, you and I. If there's one thing we both stand for is nothing is beyond criticism.
True,
nothing.
True. But
And,
I actually think that doesn't deserve criticism, and that's why I beat myself up for it. Because by all measure, I truly believe by my measure of how I assess films, that moment right there in the context of what it is in the movie it's in is actually above reproach, and so that's why I smack myself around when I get all grumbly about it. It's me, it's really. So,
I hear you.
Yeah.
And again, I've always actually. It's funny that you mentioned it at all because I've always felt like like I'm being a big sissy by liking that scene. To be honest with you, but I do like it.
But when I was in college, I would say, I wouldn't say totally dickish things, but I would say things like, with that seamless branching technology they just put in the Terminator 2 DVD where you can watch different versions. I really wish they'd give us an option where we watch the same movie but just without the voiceover in that one part. Like it was. But again, like, I've come to a place with it where it's like, no, it needs to be there as part of this whole experience. It needs to be there as much as You've Got Me, Who's Got You needs to be in there. And so I'm literally okay with it. I just fight my brain about it a lot, is what I'm saying. So,
well, if we're at confession time about this film, then I'll make mine. There's one thing that one I don't defend till I won't die on the hill of defending it because I can understand it. But there is something I will defend to the death. But this part I'll shock you a little bit. I'm not the biggest fan of the casting of Margot Kidder, rest her soul and bless her.
Right, and I'm right there. I'm right there with you, sir. Keep talking.
Well, I was just gonna say that, and again, I don't know if Donner cut out the wonderful scene that is fun to see with Noel Neal and the great Kirk Allen, the first actor to play Superman, when they definitely identify the little girl on the train as Lois Lane, because as we both know, it's 12 years. Superman, that's another thing. I don't know about Superman being gone for 12 years like that, like he was in the Fortress. 12 years later, puts that little girl in her very early 20s. And Lois is supposed to be like a veteran reporter at this time. And,
right.
Certainly Margot's much older than that. And I just, I would have preferred a different casting on her. Again, she does a fine job and she does not hurt the film in any way for me whatsoever. I can't necessarily completely say that about Superman 2, but I have no problem with her. She does not damage the film for me at all. However, I probably would have gone a little bit of a different way.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to Margot Kidder, it took the care and it took the dedication, really, of Donner and Jeffrey Unsworth, the director of photography, as well as the makeup people. And that's not a dig. What I'm saying is that they lavished the necessary attention on her as a collective group to bring out the best version. Because as you can see, once all of them were gone and you see the Lester inserts within 2, and then you definitely see how, you can actually see from scene to scene and even shot to reverse shot in Lester's part 2 when it's him reshooting her, because she literally looks haggard. And that's part punishment, because we know how petty some of these directors can be, a la what Robert Weiss did to poor Grace Lee Whitney in the motion picture. So we know that this stuff can happen, but it is shocking to see how it was almost like Donner got his people together and said, "I like her energy. She might not be the ideal casting for this, but we're going to make this work because I think that we can pull off we can pull a sculpture from this, this stone or whatever." And once they were gone, these other people didn't have the ability to do that. So even just if you look at Superman 2, the scene where the villains come into the Daily Planet and Lois, catches Perry White's head, and she's cradling his head when he's unconscious on the floor. If you're watching it closely, you can see that Lois goes from gorgeous makeup and very well done hair, cuts back to Zod, cuts back to her, and suddenly she's like all frizzed out with no lipstick, and she's got terrible makeup on, and it's like, wow, like what they really didn't put any effort into trying to match that. They really didn't. And yeah, so like Lois is kind of annoying at times in the original Superman film, but when you compare it to 2, like I don't know.
No,
yeah.
No, I'm totally with you. But I was one of those that almost liked Felix Coates better than Noel Neal. So what can I tell you?
Oh,
I loved them both, though.
Yeah.
They were both great. And even though I wasn't the biggest fan of Lois and Clark, I agree that Terry Hatcher was wondrous. But
yeah.
But Donner, again, he brings a grandiose feel to this character that I love. That, as we talked about, treating the character with respect. Because he believed, again, this character, and at this time when they were going into production of this film, this character was maybe about 34, 35 years old. But it's already been established in all forms of media, was, easily the most, and still to this day, I guess it is, but most popular superhero there is, rightly so, really the first one. And he thought that should be treated with respect. And just to give you an idea of where we are now and where we were then, the opening scene when we first see him, actually, it's the extended version takes a good while to get to him. But the first time we see Superman, what do we see? We see him flying. And then in his introduction, his introduction to Lois, I'll give you. Have you watched the new shows Superman and Lois?
Yes, I've seen the first episode. Yeah.
Well, I didn't like the first 5 or so. Then I've gone back and I've stayed with it and I've watched it since it came back until the end of this season. And I like things about it. There are things I'm not all that sanguine about, but overall, you get so starved for Superman. If they do anything that barely even borderline treats him right, I kind of give it a shot. And I think the show is okay. But my point about it is not that so much. Is they did have an episode that was a flashback episode where he was reliving how he first got started. And he had that wonderful Golden Age costume for like a whole few minutes. And it chronicles how he first meets Lois. It is so, and then I didn't really like it that much at first, and I kind of knew why. And today when I'm sitting here watching this film again, I'm reminded of why no one's ever going to touch Donner again when it comes to Superman ever. In this wonderful, spectacular scene where he rescues her from the helicopter, still to this day, one of the greatest scenes in a superhero movie of all time, in my opinion, because Superman is about rescuing people. When he catches the helicopter, you can say what you want about how it looks. I think it looks fantastic even to this day. Catches it in one hand, and yes, it doesn't break. Too bad. It's a Superman movie. You got me. Who's got you? All of it. Every bit of that scene is wonderful. And it really, really comes off as, an awe. I hate to use the word awesome, but an awesome moment for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know how he meets her in this for the first time? No. Well, I'm not really spoiling that much, folks. The episode ran a few weeks back, and it's not really. It's just, he's not turned into Superman yet. And instead of rescuing her, he finds out she's he finds out she's being attacked by some neo-Yahtzee dude with a gun and some armor, some kind of armor or some kind of crap. Then he basically shows up, fights the guy, and then he actually knocks Superman through a building, and she does something. She ends up saving his ass.
Wow.
Helping him fight it instead of rescuing her from something that she as a human being could do nothing about, which is
right.
The situation you're in when you're falling from the helicopter like she was. No human would have survived that. It's not a sexist thing. No human would have survived what she was about to happen to her.
Right.
But it just goes to show you how they will take this minimalist approach. And I understand they don't have a great budget, but they don't approach Superman with that grandiosity and that seriousness and that respect. And this is an okay show. I kind of like it. It's all right. But then I watch something like Donner's film, and it just puts that thing into the dirt. I mean, it makes me go, this is where we are, where I got to, get little bitty bits and pieces here and there of something that's okay, as opposed to the way it's supposed to be done and the way this character is supposed to be done. Now, I understand it's a movie with a big budget, relatively speaking, and you got a TV show, but nevertheless, the respect that Donner treated Superman with has very rarely in superhero films, and there have been millions, as we know, zillions of them right now. Very rarely has a superhero been treated with that kind of respect. And the few times it has, they've been pretty good films.
Yeah. Yeah. That was what was the big, that's what makes Superman Returns so infuriating for me, is because you have the score, which is perfect. You have the awesome opening credit sequence. You have, I think, a really decent casting with Superman himself. And you have that really, really great airplane rescue sequence. But other than that, they didn't seem to understand how to do the rest of the film. It was like, that's all they like watched it's like they watched the helicopter rescue and got John Williams music and found a guy who could be really, earnest, like Chris Reeve, and that's as far as they got. And then everything else was just a mess. And boring. It's like, wow, you guys found a way to make a Superman film boring. Like, I don't know.
Absolutely. You just, you can't, I don't know.
It's so frustrating because that movie, every time it comes out on a format, I'm like, well, I mean, I do want to see the airplane sequence every now and then, but I'm never going to watch this movie again. Like, I just like watching that airplane rescue sometimes and wishing that the colors weren't so washed out. Like that they would, make the colors a little bit more Superman-y again, not just in his costume, but in the whole palette. But yeah, right. The movie itself, though, what a confused, boring mess. Just, ugh. So.
Well, absolutely, and I think Richard Donner set the standard, because every film, every other superhero film that I like, I measure it against that, whether I mean to or not. For example, Jon Favreau's first Iron Man film treats is totally different film. Obviously, I get that vibe off of it, that it's treating the character with that kind of respect. You and I've talked about the Marvel films a lot, even if you have issues with what Joe Johnston did with First Avenger. I love it, and you like it, but have issues with it. It treated the Superman. It treated Captain America the same way, as did the other two films.
Captain America was immaculately treated in that movie. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with anything involving Captain America in that movie, or even Peggy Carter, or even Red Skull as a character. The problem that I have with that movie, as we've talked about before, is simply they needed a mission after the rescue. They needed a mission, and they should have been fighting real German soldiers and not spacemen. But that, again, we've talked about.
No, absolutely right. But as far as the tone, that tone is very Donner. And again, I'm using the word Donner. If you get a superhero right in a film, I'm going to say it's Donner-esque, because it is, because he sets the template. I love, as you know, I dearly love the Adam West Batman TV show. It was kind of responding to a time when the character was frivolous, and it was a comedy, a great comedy, and I love it. And it was reflective of what some of the comics were like, but it wasn't treating the character, the way it was originally intended to be. It's still great. Whereas, Tim Burton sort of does. I have a lot of issues with the way he does it, but I like the movie for the most part. And of course, I think Joe Johnston does it, not only with The Rocketeer, but of course with Captain America, and the Russo brothers do it with The Winter Soldier. And again, there's a handful of movies that I put in the caliber of what Donner did for Superman. Of course, the first Iron Man film, but there aren't a lot, but there are a few where I thought the characters would be treated with the respect that they deserve. And this is the guy that started Richard Donner. And again, another thing is he had a pretty big resume before that and a huge one after that. So this is a guy who's not a one-hitter either. He's made a lot of films that resonate with people. Superman 1, of course, could be his most famous film, but he has a famous film series, which I love, the Lethal Weapon movies.
Oh yeah, the Lethal Weapon movies are great. I mean, my personal favorite is Lethal Weapon 2. I know a lot of people like the first one. That's another set of films where the director's cuts are still only on DVD, and I would prefer to watch the director's cuts in high def. I really like the director's cuts, taking nothing away from the theatrical, but I really like the director's cuts, and so I keep watching my DVDs. So
yeah, I love 2. I think might be my favorite as well, but I can even watch 4, as ridiculous as it is. It's goofy, but I still like those characters. And he probably went a little bit over the top with them.
Mm-hmm.
There's some goofy crap in it, to be honest.
Yeah,
with you, but it's fun. They're fun. It's fun though.
3 and 4, they keep trying to add new cast members, and you're right, they get goofy. The ones I own are 1 and 2. Now, if they come out with a 4K set with the director's cuts on them, and I have to buy all 4 of them in one box, fine, I'll do it. But it's like when I have to buy Indiana Jones 4 every time I buy an Indiana Jones movie set. It's like, thankfully, they brought it out on 4K. This will be the last time I have to buy Indiana Jones, because I won't be buying Indiana Jones 5. I'll just use Indiana Jones 4 as a drink coaster or something. But Lethal Weapon, that might end up being the same way.
Exactly. Yes. Yes, Steve mentioned he did direct Maverick, which, as a big fan of the old TV show, I wasn't thrilled about them doing a remake thing, but it was a funny movie. It was fun enough. It was okay, I guess. I don't know if you saw that one.
I saw that in the theater.
Yeah,
and I remember the opening scene. I remember the last scene, even though, get this, haven't seen the movie since 1994, whatever it was, 93, 94. Saw it in the theater. And even in all that time, I still remember large chunks of it. So I remember enjoying it, and I've been meaning to revisit it, and I've never gotten around to it. It's crazy.
Yeah, I've never watched it again. Nothing really against it, but I mean, it's just that, I don't know, making Mel Brett instead of like just another different Maverick kind of irritated me, because I love the old show that much. But I know you weren't a big fan of the show too much. But
it wasn't that I wasn't a big fan of it. It was just that I never could quite plug into Maverick. I couldn't plug into the TV show's tone. I need to try. That's another. I need to rewatch the movie and revisit the show. So
I loved it, but like I say, it was a little bit different. I'm a Have Gun guy. I love Have Gun Will Travel, and
I love that.
Dead or Alive.
I love those shows. Love those shows, and I don't sit around, like, Maverick didn't do anything to me where I sit around going like,
no.
I'm like, I stay up at night thinking about how I don't like Maverick. Maverick is not. It's not like that. It's not one of those things where I'm flabbergasted as to how a large section of the population could like that thing.
No, I got you.
I literally just, like, I've never quite figured out how to connect to that show. That's all. So
not a big deal, dude. Like I said, I know you didn't hate anything. No, it's me, man. It's me. You don't have to explain that to me, man. I got you.
Well, I explained it for the benefit of everybody in the comments.
Oh, that's true. Well, you got to sometimes. Now, Pat S., that we were kidding about Gilligan's Island being our favorite TV show, right? It was an inside joke, but with a Flash. Not that I don't like Gilligan's Island at all, but no, it's not my favorite. Spoiler alert, because soon Flash will be doing our top 25 shows. But yes, I didn't realize it, but it figures that Mr. Donner had directed an episode. He did so much, so yeah, he did an episode of Gilligan's Island. Well, there you go, classic. RF Biker Scouts. RF, I know of Inside Moves, but I don't think I ever saw it. I know he did that in like 1980ish, 1 or 80ish or something. Mr. Donner, but have you seen that one or no?
Which Inside Moves? I've never seen Inside Moves. I've meant to, because I know it's supposed to be one of his favorite movies he ever did as a director, but it's one of those where time makes fools of us all, and I still haven't gotten around to it.
Gotcha. I'd actually forgotten all about it until Biker Scout had mentioned that. So there you go. But yes, I think I love was it probably Lethal Weapon 2 the best, but I love both the first one and the second one. I mean, they're great stuff. And again, if you think about it, if you look at I'll go over and you look at his IMDb, and the diversity of the kind of films he directed is interesting as well. This is a guy that went all over the place. Omen, and then you got Superman, and you got The Toy and Lady Hawk, Goonies, Lethal Weapon, Scrooged, which I like a lot, by the way. I love Scrooged. Radio Flyer, I never. Was it some of the other ones I'm looking at here? I never saw Assassins. I don't know what Assassins is.
Assassins is the one with Sylvester Stallone and.
Oh, okay.
I always get those mixed up because he did one called The Specialist, and then he did Assassins, and I can never remember if Assassins is the one with Antonio Banderas or not. I think it is.
Gotcha.
So
okay, I got you. But and so that's a broad spectrum there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was a very varied director. Like he didn't have like a lane that was the only lane he could function in. He seemed to be able to do a lot of different things. I don't think I ever saw him do like a full-on comedy. Well, he did The Toy, so he did a comedy. Never mind. I will rescind that flippant statement. So
that and there's interesting because he only did that one comedy, but still he did it. And
he did it.
He directed the Gilligan's Island. So, but I mean, there's the thing, and of course on TV he went all over the place. Most of it wasn't. It's funny, like you mentioned that he did a Gilligan's Island. Everything else is Twilight Zone and Have Gun and Rifleman. It's dramas, drama. He did that show. Wow, hell, 12 O'Clock High. Remember that show? Good Lord.
Mm-hmm.
One combat episode. Oh, he did some Wild Wild West. Okay.
Yep.
Which I love.
I got to just address this one comment. Maverick is big with old people. They like James Garner. Okay. Okay.
Who said that?
Monkey Jeebus. And I'm going to be nice, but at the same time, I absolutely adore James Garner. And as Mike will tell you, I have Support Your Local Sheriff and The Rockford Files and The Great Escape and a number of other films on rotation all the time. James Garner was a treasure. He's a cultural icon, and you don't have to be old to like James Garner. You have to be, in my opinion, cultured to like James Garner. There.
Support Your Local Sheriff. Absolutely, D-Bub. What a great movie that is. And that's one of your favorites.
Yep.
Old people. Well, Mike's a young fella, actually, especially compared to me, anyway. You're a damn youngster, Mike. So, Michael, and I was gonna accuse D-Bud and Steve Mitchum of being the oldest guys here, but I don't want to be mean to the old people. So
yeah.
But again, maybe. James Garner is one of the greatest, actors of all time, film or TV. But he's one of, I guess you could say he's probably a little bit better known for TV, but not by a lot because there's still a lot of great, movies he's been in as well.
Oh yeah, he's been in a ton of great movies. I always get the one I can never remember the exact number and name of this thing, but it's 38. Something the one where the Nazis trick him into thinking he's back in Allied territory, and he starts to figure out that it's all an elaborate theatrical ruse, and that one was really good. And that's not a twist, by the way. That's the setup for the film. So don't worry, right. I didn't give anything away. But he doesn't know that. What's that called? It was filmed in Yosemite, but it was Yosemite was doubling for Germany. Because it was black and white.
I don't know that one.
38. I'm looking it up. Oh, hold on.
Cool. Yeah.
Let's see. James Garner.
Weird. I'd never heard that. I loved him of course, he was great in The Great Escape.
36 hours. It's called
36 hours. Okay.
Yep,
okay.
Yep. So I got run off of the hotel area that they filmed as the hospital while we were in Yosemite because it's still standing and they still use it as a hotel, and I wanted to go run up to the door of the room that James Garner was in, and they were like in off season, and the guy from the what do you call it, the landlord's lodge or whatever you want to call it, the hotel office, came outside and yelled across the courtyard. He's like, "Get off that porch!" And I'm like, bastard. I just wanted to get my picture next to James Garner's, room from 36 hours, but that's okay. Screw you too. So.
Oh, wow, Steve. I still have my Super 8 sound version. Super 8 sound version. Wow. You still have your Viewmaster, I hope. You better have your Viewmaster of Superman, the movie. Come on. Which I don't have. but I'm pretty sure they did one.
They did, but I never owned that one. I always wanted it, but I never had it.
Damn. I don't know if I did either, now that I think about it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I love James Garner. Monkey, Rockford Files, I love. It's just that's my all-time. It's tough to pick a favorite James Garner. I mean, my favorite movie he was ever in was Great Escape, probably. But wow, Rockford Files is, as far as he did a lot of shows, but that's the one for me. And I loved Maverick, but you know what was weird? Did you ever see the show he did, Nichols?
That sounds familiar, but I've never seen it.
Not too good. It was so obscure. It lasted one season. It was a weird show. It was the early 70s. I think it was before Rockford. And it finally, a friend of mine used to talk about it for years, and I'd never seen it. It was never run in syndication. And they finally did like Warner Archives puts out some of these specials, like editions and stuff. They finally put it out, and he brought it over. My friend Scott. Mm-hmm. He brought it over, and we watched a few episodes. It is the weirdest thing I've ever seen James Garner do. It is. Absolutely. He played. It's set in the old. I don't know about Old West or late 18th century. Late 1800s or whatever.
Right.
And he plays a complete coward, weird, low-life kind of a guy in this town called Nichols, whatever. And I don't know. Someone here's probably seen Nichols, but it's so obscure. And Garner really liked it, and it just lasted one season. You'd think at that time, though. After Maverick, he'd been away from TV a while. I guess maybe he didn't have that kind of star power. Or maybe it was just weird seeing him play a weirdo character like that. Because we watched some of it.
Right.
Like, oh, this is just kind of strange. It's the strangest show from that era I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just not being James Garner. And I don't mean he needs to play the same thing every time. But let's face it. I got used to Rockford and Maverick.
Yeah.
And he's not Rockford and Maverick in this. He's not even Jason McCullough from Support Your Local Sheriff.
Right. Like I've got him in a number of films in my library, like Hour of the Gun, where he played Wyatt Earp, and I've seen him in Grand Prix. The thing about Grand Prix that weirds me out is not anything he did. It's that they really over-indexed on that, mid-60s Brady Bunch style panel filmmaking, where they keep popping up multiple panels of images on the screen at the same time. And it's like, like the intro to the Brady Bunch where everybody's on screen in a square. Like they're doing all that stuff in Grand Prix. And it was just it's very intense the way they did it. And it was just like, okay, I'm getting vertigo watching this at this point. I don't even know.
Yeah. It was that's true. I think that was one of the last things he did, Phantom Outsider, which was that voice on that Shazam cartoon, Superman versus Shazam, Return to Black Adam.
Oh, okay.
Yes. He did the voice of old Shazam on that thing.
Oh, and let's not forget Tank.
Tank was one of the first PG-13 movies. I went and saw that at the theater in '84, I believe.
Uh-huh.
And he's Garner in it. It's kind of cool.
I mean, I'm not saying it's the greatest movie ever.
No, it was good.
What I'm saying is, it's his big '80s movie. Is Tank?
That's true, huh?
Yeah.
I didn't know you'd seen that one. I hadn't seen that since it came out in the theater, probably.
Yeah, I mean, did I buy it on? It just came out on Blu-ray, but I can't remember.
Okay.
I can't remember if I bought it or if I put it in my cart and then didn't buy it yet. I'll have to go check. And then I guess he played Wyatt Earp a few times because he played Wyatt Earp again in Sunset.
I like Sunset. A lot of people don't. I actually didn't know if you saw that one. I actually really liked Sunset. I thought it was kind of a fun movie. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. It didn't do well. But
but that to me makes it all the more interesting to go revisit. So
yeah, so you have seen it. It's been a
while.
I
saw it years and years ago, but I now I really want to go look at it again because this was back during that period in the '80s where they were really exploring the first half of the 1900s in historical period films. There was that phase where they were like, let's do movies set in the 20s all the time, and stuff like that. And it's like, cool. So every time I go to the theater, it would be like, I could go see High Road to China, or I could go see something, like The Aviator with Christopher Reeve. Look, I brought it back around to Superman again.
Yes.
So yeah, it was an interesting filmmaking period.
Did you ever see or ever hear of, we're going obscure again, like Nichols, on a series from the early 70s called The Bearcats?
No, what's that about?
Well, it takes place in the early 1900s. Rod Taylor So I was always a fan of his.
Yep.
It was a regular. It was about that. What's that car? The car, the Bearcat.
Okay.
They were like special agents or something. Donner directed 2 episodes of that, and it only lasted a season. I think it only lasted like Rod Taylor and Dennis Cole or whatever. No, 14 episodes. It's called The Bearcats. Scott also got that one on thing. We watched it. That's a fun show. It was pretty interesting. I really liked it, and it didn't last that long. No one really remembers it, but Donner did a couple episodes of that. That's a show I think you might enjoy. It's just kind of because it's so obscure. Again, it's just one of those didn't last. And it's basically 2 honorable men for hire look for adventure in the pre-World War One American Southwest in their fancy Stutz Bearcat.
Nice.
And it was kind of a adventure show. Because I'm a big fan of Rod Taylor. I love him in a lot of stuff, including like George Powell's Time Machine. So yeah, but again, it's so damn obscure. And again, that's the thing about Richard Donner. All these shows he directed. Good Lord, he worked on a lot of shows.
Yeah, he really did. He really did.
I mean, Have Gun Will Travel, he did 5 episodes. Wow.
And I mean, that just shows how we didn't realize as kids that he was an older director then. Like in the 80s, he was not, a lot of people were telling me today they didn't realize he was 91. And I'm like, yeah, he was already a veteran before he ever did Superman and all those. He'd been directing, since, some of the early days of TV. So the fact that we've had him around this long is a miracle.
Yeah, absolutely. He hung in there for hopefully what I certainly hope was, and sure seems to be a good long life there. But again, like you said, we always say that, and it's sure we all hope we at least get that far. But yeah, it doesn't make it any the less sadder when they pass. And I never say that to make it sound like I think it's fine that they passed because they lived a long time. I mean, I'm sure he would like to have been 191. And so. But again, hopefully, though, he did have a nice long life, and he was a great director. Again, I marvel at not only his TV credits, but how varied his movie resume is. I mean, the Omen, for goodness sake, that was like one of his. I think that was that the first big film he did? Probably.
Yep.
And it was the first film he did. I think looks like, according to this. So, wow, and again, it's. The last thing he did was in 2006. 16 Blocks. I don't know if I've seen that.
I haven't seen it either. I remember hearing the title, but I don't think I realized that Richard Donner had directed it. So,
and I've never seen Radio Flyer, but people say that was good. I don't know.
You know what? I remember that being advertised when it was coming out, and I never went and saw it. So I'm guilty. I'm just as guilty as everybody else.
Yeah, never. I've heard it was good though. 1992. But yeah, he let's see, want a Gardner Superman connection? Let's see here. In the movie or Over Darling, Doris Day picks is that called Over Darling? Is that the movie? Or Doris Day picks hubby Garner over Chuck Connors, Sylvester J. Superman I remember Chuck Connors did play a character called Sylvester J. Superman in an episode of Adventures of Superman. Wow. You can make an easier connection by just putting Garner in a movie that was directed by Donner, but there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Donner directed a bunch of Riflemen.
Yep.
Which I used to like that show a lot. That was a good show. There you go. Have Gun Will Travel reads the card of a man. Yeah, I love it. A Knight Without Armor in a Savage Land. In my opinion, like the kids say, fight me. It's the greatest TV Western of all time. Fight me. Oh, you don't have to fight me. You can just tell me I'm full of shit. That'll work. That'll be just as good. But I would put it up against any of them, dude. I think it's the best. I think it's the best one. But we're never going to see his like again because, again, I don't think there. And again, you probably know more about a lot of these modern directors than I do. I don't know much about a lot of them. I can't name you one right now that is just churning it out that I really think a whole lot of. The last ones that were doing stuff I like turned out to start doing stuff I don't like that much, and that was the Russo brothers after they did the Winter Soldier. I thought, wow, these guys, wow, they're going to be fantastic, but they were caught up in that Disney corporate system where they're not really in charge of anything. So, out on their own, maybe they can make other good stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I had the same impression of them. I came to Winter Soldier late. I was being told, I was being badgered, watch Winter Soldier, watch Winter Soldier. Okay. And then I go watch it, and it is good. It's really, really, really good. And I then suddenly was given hope for the Marvel Cinematic Universe again. And while it was still very watchable up through Endgame, I felt like it got a little homogenized, and I felt like the Russos' potential with the series began and ended with Winter Soldier. I know a lot of people love Infinity War. I get that, and I don't dislike it. What I'm saying is that I don't feel like it's a Winter Soldier. I don't feel like we hit that high again. And again, I own all these movies that I'm mentioning, so I don't want anybody. We're in this era now, Mike, where you start talking about something that you might actually own or appreciate, own a copy of, or even appreciate on some level, but you start talking about some of the ways you perceived it or consumed it or how it impressed upon you, and suddenly people think you hate it, and it's like, no, we're just having a conversation. So
there's an interesting question, Michael. You could probably answer better than me. I think, is there one certain style technique that Donner used in his films that really stand out to you both? What do you think of that?
If you were to play Superman the movie and Lethal Weapon side by side without showing me the credits, I wouldn't know that the same guy directed those, and I think that's a compliment. I think that's Donner. I think that's Donner's ability to. Donner doesn't put himself on the material. He does, but his way of putting himself on the material is by having no ego and not putting himself in the material. His whole talent comes from, I'm going to look at this material for what it is, and I'm going to do this material justice and step out of the way otherwise. And so I'm going to make a cop buddy comedy film, and I'm going to do it to the best of the cop buddy comedy's ability. I'm not going to do it this isn't just a cop buddy movie. It's a Richard Donner cop buddy movie. It's like, because we both know this, you can smell the stink of a J.J. Abrams or a Zack Snyder movie a mile away. Like, they can't get out of their own way. They can't not put themselves into a movie. Richard Donner, I think that's the beauty of him. He wants the material to sing. He's not out to, shine a flare on his own self-perceived greatness. And that's what makes him great, is that all of his films, like, I wouldn't have ever been able to tell that Goonies was made by the same guy that made Superman, except for the Superman reference at the end. And even that could have been any other director just loving Superman.
Good point.
So I like the fact that his films feel like movies in their own right, and you don't end up feeling like, oh, this is another Richard Donner jaunt, or whatever.
Yeah, he's not like Hitchcock that puts a signature on everything. But I do love what Script Doctor says about him. And that is a good point. Script Doctor, and appreciate the great Script Doctors here, folks. Always good to see you. I'd say Donner is a master of expressing relationships between characters. That's probably his main defining signature. Absolutely, because anything you watch by him, his character. I mean, he's great at characterization, and he does seem to make the characters interact with each other very well and very believably. And yeah, I mean, if you look at, he has a strength with that. And if you look at Lethal Weapon, it could. Look how many. Whether you love action films or not, how many action films are there? Especially back then, there are tons of them. How few rise to the cream of the crop to the point that they become beloved by everyone? I mean, if you're just an action fan in general, you got plenty to choose from, sure.
Right.
These stand out.
Mm-hmm.
They stand out because of, first of all, Donner was great at casting them, of course. I mean, look at the cast.
Yeah.
And then the family element that he added to Lethal Weapon. I mean, that's a component you don't see elaborated on very well or very often in an action film.
No, you don't.
And he does that beautifully. And and I think he's done that with some other films as well. So kudos to Script Doctor. I think I really hadn't thought of it that much, but I think that's one thing. I haven't seen all of his films. Now, Script Doctor's probably seen all or most of his films, but if the ones I have seen, it always stands out to me, his characterization and his relationships between his characters work so well. The wonderful Melinda. What's up, Melinda? Hey. We're about to talk about Iconicon. So yeah, I think Script Doctor really hit on a key point there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a very fair assessment. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, man. Do you have any final thoughts, basically, on Mr. Donner? I mean, because there's so much. I feel inadequate doing a show just talking about him, but there's not much more you can do, really, is talk about him a little bit. But I love. I gave me. I feel very.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I stepped on you. Sorry about that.
No. It's all right. I just want to say that I feel inadequate. That's why I'm so glad you're here, because I'm very grateful to him for doing what he did for Superman. He did more for Superman, the character, than anyone outside of the creators of Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster.
Mm-hmm.
And he's right as far as names that are important to the character of Superman. In my opinion, the biggest names, obviously Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster.
Mm-hmm.
Mort Weisinger, controversial one there, I know. Julius Schwartz, Kurt Swan, Neil Adams, especially for what he did for the Siegel and Shuster in the 70s. You have, even though he's a comic book character, you have to put Richard Donner in there with those names of the most important names, human beings connected to this wonderful, iconic, great superhero. In my opinion, I don't know what you think about that, but Monkey Jeebus, I'm not a big John Byrne fan, but our dear friend Mark C., who this show is named after, was, so I honor him on that, but he and I would disagree and we tangled a lot. John Byrne, I don't like what he did to Superman, but that's an argument for another time. So, hey, I do like Jerry Ordway, but I think you put Donner in there in that class. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Tim, I don't have to go to bed, man. I'm using a weird microphone. So, but Tim said it sounds like Michael has to go to bed. It's like, no, I keep moving in this microphone. I'm actually very alert. My thing with Richard Donner, if there were any parting thoughts, would be simply that he had a lot of good lessons to teach us about not just basic storytelling, but very specifically about superheroes and how to approach them and how to value them and how to allow them to inspire you rather than drag them down to your level so that you feel comfortable. And I feel like that's a lesson that not enough contemporary filmmakers have learned by a long shot.
Yep.
And that's really, it's kind of like how, a lot of directors, a lot of storytellers, writers, novelists, they say it wasn't until I grew up and really read Shakespeare and tried to understand him that I started to understand story and structure and character motivations and things like that. And I feel like Richard Donner's films are going to be, especially the Superman film is going to be the same way, and the Lethal Weapon films, where he may be gone, but for any director that's smart enough to go looking for it, he still has lessons to teach us about storytelling and about valuing our modern myths. It's dependent on us to value his work and go back and be willing to take something from it, take something away with it after we view it, rather than just seeing it as a curio or an outdated piece of entertainment. I'm being really pretentious right now, but I really believe it.
No, dude. No, dude, not at all. I'll tell you. By the way, Melinda, you're right. They never said Paladin's name on the show, and Richard Boone never gave a name, and he's not Heck Ramsey, everyone. And that'd take too long to explain that. But even though Heck Ramsey some people think he's Hex Ramsey because of that show he did. I don't know if you're familiar with that show, by the way, but
Yep.
But I think Richard Boone was kidding when he said that. Well, dude, I'll tell you what. I can't thank you enough for being here with us tonight. And I think we should take this, because this is what I'd planned to do anyway, even if I'd done my original topic. Before I do it, I'll say again, rest in peace, Richard Donner. Thank you so much for what you did for Superman. And for me as a Superman fan, I'll never be able to repay it, but I'll always honor him and I appreciate him for it. And we have something wonderful coming up, folks. My wonderful retro blasting friends, Michael here, and of course the wonderful Melinda. And I'd love to have you on, Melinda, one of these days too. I would love to have you on here. Are putting on. Well, I'll let you talk about it, good, because you know more about it than me. Here I say stuff, I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. It is so. Tell everyone about Iconicon.
Well, I'm just as much a content creator along for the ride as you are, Mike. And I'm not saying that to be cheesy. I'm being literal. Melinda wanted to put on an online convention, and part of that had to do with our experiences at Dragon Con, both positive and negative. And Tony just happened to come forward from Analog Toys and say, "Hey, I'd really like to do some sort of online event, this summer or something like that." And he kind of had this idea for calling it Iconicon, and Melinda and him got together, and he was just thinking, that, maybe we get a bunch of YouTubers to come together and make videos around a certain time. And then Melinda was like, why don't we do like a full-on convention, like with a schedule of events and, everything, except it's all online, and everybody from their home can be there live and enjoy it and not have to stand in lines and stand in the heat and, pay an entry fee and all that kind of stuff. And we were like, cool. And so then Melinda ran off and with her wizard brain, and she created, a whole website. She created an interactive schedule with a filtering database, and she did all these schedules online and, coordinated time zones with all these different content creators all around the world. And then she started pulling in, celebrities. So like we've got the main stars of Last Starfighter are going to do a live stream with us, Lance Guest and Catherine Mary Stewart. We've got Catherine Mary Stewart and Kelly Maroney from Night of the Comet doing a live stream with us. We've got Bruce Broughton, the composer for Silverado and Tombstone. He's going to be doing a discussion with us about movie scores. Yeah, he's going to be on with the founders of La La Land Records, who, by the way, bringing it back around to Superman, La La Land Records were the record company that just restored over the last 2 years all of the not just John Williams, but all of the 4 original Superman scores and put them back on CD. So, see, I brought it back to Superman again. But we've got them. We've got Keith Coogan, who you might remember was a child star in the 80s. He was in Adventures in Babysitting. He was in Toy Soldiers, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. He was one of the voices in Fox and the Hound. He's going to be interviewed during Iconicon. And, of course, we have all of these great content creators working on great live streams and finished videos. So, for example, Mike at Clobberin Times right here is going to be doing a panel on comic book shops of the 80s that I'm going to be a part of. And then, of course, we have, Ed's Retro Geek Out. We've got Analog Toys. We've got 2 Cents Toys. We've got Gen X Toys Geek. We've got G.I. Joe Berg. We've got Reclaimers Vintage Toys, Simple Tricks and Nonsense. I'm getting them all muddied and confused, but they're all there, and they're all making content for this. And all of it's already scheduled. It's all pre-scheduled. I just got done editing an interview that we did with Tim Clark, who is the inventor of Boglins and the Sectars. And so that's on there. My big video that's going to be premiering is part 1 of Bionic 6. So Bionic 6 is going to be there. Comic artist Tom Feister is going to be on Iconicon. He's going to be on a few panels. He's also going to be guest interviewing Keith Coogan. So, yeah.
Dude, that's fantastic. I cannot wait. I'm just too honored. I cannot believe you guys let me be a part of something like this. But I'm so happy, man.
Why wouldn't we?
Dude, I appreciate it, man.
Okay, look. for those of you in the chat who haven't seen it yet, okay, I won't go into the whole thing about how Mike and I have been friends for 10 years and blah, blah, blah. All right, that's great and everything like that. But I'm going to tell you right now, Mike has been a podcaster for a really long time. And now he's finally moved over to YouTube and continued with his Clobberin Time show, which I'm so glad you did. And I love it that you're closing in on 1,000 subs. I'd love to see that within the next month and a half if we can do it.
It's up and down.
It is for all of us. We're all there's churn all the time. But if we can get your gains higher than your losses, you're going to be in a good place. But my point in saying all that is, I waited for Mike to get established on all this, and then I turned around and I said, and I'm talking about you like you're not here, Mike, but I'm talking to the chat.
That's okay. They call me Clobby now anyway.
Okay. So I said, all right, I want to do a feature, and I want to do a feature with Mike, and I'm sick of the fact that it hasn't happened sooner but now that he's on YouTube and he's got all of his setup ready, it's more easy to do. And so I came to Mike and I said, Mike, I want to talk about Pride of the X-Men. And he was like, oh, right. Yeah. I haven't watched it in a long time. Let's do it. And I told Melinda, and I'll tell everybody in the chat, that discussion interview that I did with you about Pride of the X-Men was so just interesting, not only to do in real time, but then when I went back a few weeks later and I started editing it and getting it ready, it was like, yeah, like this is going to be a freaking great video. Like this, the right guy in the right place talking about, stuff that you're like a true lifelong enthusiast for, really came through. And that video has got 81,000 hits right now. And dude, it's because I know you were just saying that I really honored to come to Iconicon, but dude, the whole reason that we wanted you for Iconicon and you were foremost in our thoughts is because your stuff. You know how to talk about this stuff in a real and credible and independent way. And that right there to me ticks all the boxes. And then there's a big box over here that goes, and he's a really great guy and he's one of my best friends that I've known for 10 years, which is a huge check mark over here. But what I'm saying is, even if that wasn't there, all these other check marks are there for you. Thanks, bro. All of those. So I can't wait after Iconicon for us to do the video about the Shadow movie and the Alec Baldwin film from '94 and talk about that. It's going to torture us both a little bit, but we're going to get through it. It's going to be okay. We're going to do this though. But it's going to be so much fun. And that's the thing. I'm just so glad that you're on this platform now, because it's so much easier now for us to collaborate in two ways. Because before it was kind of a one-way street. It was like I was able to come on your podcast, but it was really, I couldn't figure out how to get you on my YouTube channel. And now it's so simple to do that. And I want that to become an increasing thing. I want you to do what you did on Pride of the X-Men with me on a lot of videos. So,
anytime, man. You know that. Anytime.
Yeah. So anyway.
Well, I'm honored, dude, to have been on there. I can't express how honored I was. And I had so much fun doing it, because I just had fun hanging out and talking with you anyway, bro, because I miss being able to go do it in person now, but at least we get to hang out on the show sometimes, and I miss both of you. You and Melinda, love you both. You're great, fantastic friends, and I'm so honored to be a part of this Iconicon, and I hope people will enjoy this panel. We're going to talk about something I know a little bit about, comic shops of the 80s and the comic business of the 80s. We will talk everyone about, because that was remember when the comics had a thriving industry? Does anyone remember that? You got to be old, but
I do.
It's been a while.
I remember.
It's been some time, yeah. And what were the big titles? What was everyone excited about? Man, we were just so excited about comics then, man. What a great time to be buying comics. And I miss being able to be excited about new comics coming out. It's never going to happen again in my life.
It might, with maybe some sort of cool independent comic that comes out that you really like. I know that's a stretch. I know. I really do. I know. But I'm trying to be hopeful. Trying to take away one of those little lessons from Richard Donner. trying to take away that hope.
Yeah, I'm convinced that the big companies are pretty much dead and everything. Once in a while, we'll get something here and there. They even ruined the DC animated films for the most part. I don't know if you were keeping track of those. But I did get the new one. They did one, Batman: The Long Halloween, which is based on an old comic from the '90s, Part 1, and I bought the Blu-ray and watched it last night, and it was pretty good. But they can't resist putting stupid shit in there.
Right.
When they make new stuff, I'll just bounce this off of you, dude.
Okay.
There's a scene at the end. I'm sorry to be bitching about something we're trying to get at, heck, but it's really good. The animation's great. Jensen Ackles is almost Kevin Conroy level brilliant at doing Batman's voice. I was shocked. And the guy, Troy Baker, basically is just blatantly doing a Mark Hamill rip, but it's a Joker, but it's great. At the end, Batman fans, there's a scene where, this is, of course, a very complex mystery. It's a pretty good comic from way back when. And when Batman actually says, because it's fairly early on in his career, but he says, I never thought I would actually have to be a detective. I'm like, are you shitting me? Bruce Wayne trained to be a detective while he was training his body and everything. What do you mean he wouldn't be? He's the world's greatest friggin' detective. Who writes this stuff?
I know. Well, it's funny you bring that up, man, because when I was watching Bionic 6, I had to watch all 65 episodes. I'd never seen the show before to do this feature that people have been wanting me to do for years, right? The same issue that you just mentioned came up to me. I'm sitting there watching this show, and I don't remember. It was episode 40 something. I don't remember. And the two of the characters have been all the characters have lost their old boss because he's been, quote, fired because they're saying he's not doing his job right. One of those plots. And so they bring in this hard ass guy from the government, and he's like, you're going to now all go do this stuff. Well, one of the characters, one of the superheroes, the Bionic 6, one of the 6, he ends up complaining because this guy is sending them out to actually do stuff to help people. And he literally says, he's like, I'm a superhero. I shouldn't be sent out to get cats out of trees. And I went, what? Like, because, as you and I both know, one of the most wonderful moments in Superman the movie is him taking 5 seconds to help a little girl get a cat out of a tree. And it's like, it's just as good in its own way as the helicopter rescue.
Yes. I love that scene.
Yeah, me too. With its tenderness and its genuine, sentiment and all that kind of stuff. And I'm looking at this thing, just like you said, with the writing of him saying, it looks like I got to be a detective now. Who's writing this? I said the same thing. I'm like, who is writing this? Like, this is supposed to be a superhero show, and this is the way these superheroes are acting. And dude, that was 1987. That was 9 years after Superman the movie. And I'm just like, that's how fast we were losing the ability to, if we ever had it, to talk about superheroes. Yeah.
I mean, exactly. That look, it's a heartwarming, and it's a scene where it epitomizes the superhero. They will do the little thing, the humanity of Superman. He stops, and how Superman loves people, and he saves. When he saves the cat, and then the extended version has him talk to the little girl a little bit, give her a little bit of a lecture, which is fine. It was cute. Yeah. I can see him was trimming it, but it's fine either way. And yes, we all laugh at. His mom haven't I told you to stop telling lies, and smacks her. Yeah, it's a child. People we jokingly make fun of the child abuse of it, which isn't funny. But back then we got slapped.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not saying it was right. I'm just saying. And then later, when they're watching TV and then she sees it on the news, I'm sure, see, mommy. We didn't see that. They didn't film that. Saying.
That's the funniest part about watching it. That extended scene, of course, is that the Salkinds didn't bother to dub re-loop the English girl's lines for the extensions. So she goes in and out of an American accent the whole sequence.
What were they, Pinewood Studios?
Yeah. So like all the stuff that Donner decided to fully post produce, for his final locked edit of the scene, she's been re-looped to sound like an American kid in New York or Metropolis, and then when you watch the one where they got the extended bits back in, 1 minute she's American, the next line she's British, next line she's American, next line she's British. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's inconsistencies but you're so right. That's a little thing, but it's not a little thing. It is important that person should know what superheroes are all about. And when someone writes this thing, should know what, because I got a lot of problems with Jeff Loeb, but I did like Batman the Long Halloween comic, and that I checked because it's been a while. So I checked with the ultimate Batman brain, Carlos, to make sure, and that's not in the comic. The detective crack, there were reasons why that case was very difficult, and he was early on, but Batman is the world's greatest detective, not by accident, and he didn't just learn it by tripping all over himself and not being one from the beginning. I friggin' hate that thing. I really enjoyed the film. Don't get me wrong; it's really good. Part one's really good. I'm afraid with idiots like that they're going to screw the pooch with part two. I'm worried about it, but we'll see.
I see what you're saying.
You never know. But the Blu-ray I love those little DC shorts they have on the Blu-ray. I can't wait for the next Blu-ray because it's going to have a Blue Beetle short. The real one from this, set up to look like an old an homage to old 60s cartoons. It's got the Charlton characters with Ted Cord, Blue Beetle, everyone. Now I'm looking forward to that on the Blu-ray of the second part more than I am the movie. Is that
wow.
bad?
No, it's not. It's not. It's kind of like when I love the behind the scenes story about a movie or TV show almost more than the show itself.
Exactly.
And I caught myself the other day. Like I just got the Blu-ray set from England for Doctor Who season 24.
Oh, nice.
The first Sylvester McCoy, and I love Sylvester McCoy as the Doctor, and I have no problem with any of that. I'm not, but I think I've told you many times that I love watching documentaries about film restoration and turbulent production histories and lost footage and all that kind of stuff. Well,
yes,
all those things, if you like those things, Doctor Who is crack for you. Like it is black tar heroin for that kind of stuff. all at once. Like all at once is like, you don't have to it's not just a restoration story, and it's not just a lost footage story, and it's not just a turbulent production story. It's all of them at the same time coming at you like a fire hose for 26 seasons worth of TV. So like every single documentary that's on every single episode and stuff is just rife with all that kind of interesting stuff. And I actually told myself the other day, I was like watching some of the discs, and I said, I don't know if I'm buying these discs more for the show itself or for all the crap that comes with it.
That's great.
And again, I love the content of the show, but I did have to ask myself, what am I going to be rewatching more, the show or these awesome documentaries that talk all about the crazy stuff that happens? They do come with a lot of cool stuff. I do want to get that. I'm waiting for that one to go down. You know me, I wait for the American versions to go down, but I love that you're getting the Brit versions, even though I hate the damn logo on it. Those are some nice sets. Yeah, I do too. But the only reason I started in on the British versions is because I didn't know they would actually release them in the US. And then once I had them, I was like, oh well, I've just got to keep going because otherwise.
Yeah, those are nicer. Yours are nicer.
Yeah, they're just. It's like.
No, those are nicer. Monkey, I'm aware that Dan Garrett's the original, but he's the Golden Age Blue Beetle. I'm kind of partial to Ted Cord, the Silver Age one, but that's just me. Yeah, and screw DC for what they did to him. But the geekness of it, huh? Man, dude, I tell you what, it has been fantastic hanging out here with you tonight, bro. I mean, I especially the short notice I stuck you with like that.
No, it's fine, man. I said, if I'm ever available, if I'm available at short notice, and I'll jump on. I've always told you that. So yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, man. Everyone here tonight, thank you so much for being here. One more quick show note, everyone. As I keep pointing out, this is a long way away, but as you know, as I've just been saying, Marvel Comics, this is the 60th anniversary of the Fantastic Four, their flagship title, their first family. Now, we all know they will not celebrate it properly. It won't happen because they're not capable of it. They're proving it right now with some of the garbage they're putting out. So it's up to Clobberin times. That's right. I hereby claim ownership of the Fantastic Four. Anything else is not the true Fantastic Four. I own it myself, and so don't listen to Disney. Listen to me. August 8th, 1961 was the release date for Fantastic Four #1. And so August 8th, 2001, on this show, it is a Sunday, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. I will gather my Global Geek Gang and we will celebrate my beloved Fantastic Four in the way that only Clobberin Times can do it.
Nice.
Because it must be done. Because, Michael, I love me some FF, as you know.
Yep.
They mean the world to me, and they have been disgraced.
Mm-hmm.
And the crap that Marvel's doing now that they call a celebration of it, if any of you are reading that Fantastic Four life story, I don't know how you're doing it. That makes me want to punch things. I'll just put it like that. Punch things. Clobber. It makes me want to clobber things when I hear about how stupid that is. So, FF Grand Design is fairly interesting there, Steven mentioned, but if you could get it cheap, maybe. It's that you got to get used to that art and stuff. They get a few things wrong, but it is pretty interesting stuff. It's a very strange read, though. But it is interesting if you can get it, if you can snag them cheap or something, or you never know. So anyway, yes, everyone, that's going to be Sunday, August 8th. I know it's a long way away now, but August is always for Clobberin Times Jack Kirby month. And we celebrate Jack Kirby and his wonderful creations. And, of course, this is my favorite of his creations. So thank you all so much for being here tonight. Rest in peace, Mr. Richard Donner. I thank you more than I could possibly express into words. And I know my friend Michael here feels the same way. We appreciate everything you did.
Mm-hmm.
All of your work, of course, and what you did for Superman. I will always be in your debt, sir.
Yep. Agreed.
And in honor of this great man, I will end without our usual ending credits. Just like a sort of a bit of, I guess you could call it a bit of a moment of silence for him. But I want to thank you all for being here tonight. You are fantastic, every one of you. Wonderful new friends who've popped in here tonight. Thank you. My wonderful friends that are here regularly. And by the way, big shout out to the great Steve Mitchum. Happy birthday to Maddie, buddy. My dear friend Steve and his wonderful baby daughter. Dude, I hope you gave her a wonderful birthday. I'm sure you did. So that's right. And Eric K speaks the truth. Any Fantastic Four that is not authorized by Clobby is hereby heresy and shall be shunned and ridiculed by all. Let it rot in the filth of its own fornication. Or something like that. Or maybe that was a little bit over the top. Sorry. That's what we do here, though, isn't it? All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great night.